Hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. Well, this week is back up in Genoa Bay working on that pretty horrible aft bulkhead of MV Zephyrus, but it's going really well. Got the template done, everything is well lined up. Quite excited. Let's jump back and have a look. All right then, well, we're back up to MV Zephyrus in Genoa Bay, and I'm pretty sure with the heat that we had under here that this is all fully cured now. Let's have a look. Ah, perfect. And this fairing went so smooth because, well, I did put it on quite a bit too thin probably, but as a result it's perfectly smooth. Okay, wow, fiberglass. I see small imperfections. I'm gonna live with them. My gosh, this really is very impressive how this just leveled out. Again, probably too thin, but it worked in my case. Well, I would never be so bold as to say this is perfect. There are certainly some high spots and, in fact, a few bubbles that I'll have to deal with. And, well, I would say for a first effort, I'm not too disappointed with myself. Everything is structural and secure. The little fillet in here worked out very well, needs some fine tuning. Obviously there's going to be quite a few more coats of, in some cases, actual little fiberglass patches, but fairing to get this to look half decent. However, this is in exactly the place where it's going to be when it's finished, within, I don't know, a 32nd of an inch. So I'm going to dry fit the sill again, get it fully aligned, so that I can make a template for the bulkhead, so that I can be splitting my work between waiting for epoxy type products to cure and building the actual bulkhead, which means mahogany and wood. Isn't that way better? So I'm going to get the sill back in now. What I have to do, because I now have a rather substantial fillet in here, I have to sand a corresponding radius on the corner. Be easily done. Right then, here's our pretty little mahogany sill, and all we need to do is ease this edge relatively substantially. There we go. That should do it. All right then, get that down there. Okay. This is a sheet of door skin. I very much suspect that's bamboo. It's funny, we went from one offshore veneer, Luan, to another offshore veneer, bamboo. Anyway, it's cheap, it's solid, and it's good for templating, which is what we're doing now. Well, it seems that door skin also has a lot of internal stresses, making it very difficult to rip. I think you're encouraging me to use sound ear protection, aren't you?
In a very quiet way, yes.
What's that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Make it happen.
Very responsible television show we have. Now, the difference between using the ripping guide and using a fence when you have gnarly wood is that you can just keep walking it through the kerf and opening the kerf up to relieve that tension. But once you're using a ripping guide, once you've made the first cut, you can't actually move over in either direction to solve the problem. So that's why we're ripping the rest of this with a fence. Evil, nasty bamboo. Huh?
You're gonna have to explain that one.
That I don't like bamboo? I just don't like it as a wood. It's not wood. It's a weed. Okay. Okay, so to lay the template in, it obviously sits in the rabbet of the sill, but it also has to extend out over the side of the cabin side here, so that it will become an end to this piece of trim and an end to this piece of trim. It's basically going to come out here and return against the cabin side here. So I just had to cut at least a beginning slot so that the template will fit through here, and then this can be fine-tuned when the actual bulkhead is built. All right, well, just a couple of screws in here. This holds this in place, and I'm able to measure all the relationship up and over down the side of the cabin. So I've transferred that up here to my template, at least in rough, and this is coming up inside the sill, out across the top of the sill, diagonally down through the cabin side, so that I can actually cut the cabin side at a bevel in that notch to encourage drainage, gosh forbid, and then back out again. This, of course, will be a big arc at some point, but we can determine that later. And of course, I've transferred all that down to the other end as well. Okay, so here's my first test fit of the template. I fully expect it to need to have some material moved from the center of the bottom because, of course, there's quite a bit of a camber, but I just want to get a rough idea of how much that's going to be. So I'll start with a good arc out of here, something in that department, but probably at least a ½ inch above that. Okay, to be a little more elegant with this, I'll just spring a batten. If I've learned anything about working with bamboo, eye protection is even more crucial than it ever was before. Okay, let's see how that... Pretty close. Good, 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 good. Now I can scribe the actual curb. It's sitting in here very nicely. Of course, it's not down here yet because it's not down here yet. But as long as I set this gap and the corresponding one at the far side, I can then scribe the correct curve on the bottom of the template. As luck would have it, the scribe is 7/8 of an inch. So a piece of 3/4 inch plus the pencil, and we're off to the races. Right then. Okay, so as you can imagine, the last little while was several dozen test fittings. Basically, I place it in, I scribe where it needs a little bit of an adjustment, I take it back out, I sand or cut that little adjustment, and as of now, well, it's not actually in the channel down there, but we're darn close, which is really pleasing. It's actually gone very well. And so over on this side, it's excellent. I can tell see how it's pivoting there? I don't know if you can. It's just a little tight right there because it's actually binding up there. But other than that, my gosh, I'm so pleased. Okay, so it's not binding there anymore, so that worked out really well. Okay, super pleased. So I'm going to clamp it in place, well, sort of just bind it in place a little bit, and we can start to scribe the other side of it. Basically, what's going to match the cabin top. Now, I'm not doing this the same way it was done before because it was done really badly. It's basically, I'm going to extend the new bulkhead up about an inch beyond, and it will create a dam, and it will also extend beyond this little gutter rail here and make sure that water cascades off and can't work its way back down into any of these places anymore. In fact, I'm even going to put a little brass scupper, not a scupper, but a little deflector out here to try and shed the water off the edge of the boat. Anyway, so basically I'm just going to draw a line parallel to the cabin top here, about an inch away. For maximum consistency, I have taped my pencil to my scribing block to make sure that there's no chance it will shift while I'm scribing away. I opted to cut outside the line and sand down to the line because I am not having the greatest success managing tools in this bamboo. Alright, time for the fun part. Clamped in place, held so that I can push against the inside of it. That means push because I'm going to draw on the inside of it. It's time to draw the windows. Well, first things first, gotta take the plastic down, but I can tell you one thing. It's a lot darker in here without all that opening that's been here for the last several weeks. So hopefully we can put enough window into this. Is it time to let you know that yes, indeed, the new windows will be significantly larger than the original windows. Who knows what the original windows were? I very much doubt the windows that I just took out were the original windows. You know what? I might need both hands for this. Okay. Now there's two things I have to determine while the template is in place like this, and that's how far up from the sill will the bottom of the window be, and how far down from the beam, or really the overheads, will the window be. And I can do that simply with a scribing block, and I've determined that's about as much as I want right there. Now, where are the posts going to go between the two, well, the three windows? There's going to be three windows, a center window and two side windows with curved ends, and it's just going to be a vertical post between them here. And I'm going to line it up with this edge of this companionway and then mirror imaged on the other side. And then I have to decide where this curve will come in, something to echo the kinds of curves that are on the sides of these Monk cruisers. So, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Anyway, I'm going to start with the scribing because I know that's pretty much a given. Now, if I just sort of temporarily mock up roughly where these are going to go, which is here and here. But now to get a whole picture of it, I have to try and imagine where the curved ends of these windows are going to be. Of course, the center window is going to be significantly larger. I'm starting to sort of see how this is going to come together. Okay, I'm going to start with 8 inches in from the inside of the sill and go outside, play with some curves and see what that looks like. So the classic monk window curve, which of course a lot of boats used in this era, including the ferry, the coho, this curve would generally be a French curve. In other words, a curve where no point on the curve is the same radius. This boat, however, this whole section here is one radius, and this section is another radius, and this section is a third radius. That was sort of the way to simulate it if you didn't have the means of drawing a big French curve. Now, to achieve a French curve or an elliptical curve, you can do it with 2 nails and a loop and a loop of string and a pencil. However, it creates a symmetrical elliptical curve, which this is not. So, because the curves at the top are much gentler and tighter at the bottom. So, like the way this one was done, it's 1 arc through here, 1 arc through here, and 1 arc through here. And that's the system I'm going to use to simulate that in the bulkhead. I have some assorted radiuses. So here are my 3 radii. This will be the bottom section, this will be the neck section, and this will be just the last part that brings it back up to the line. I'd almost want a larger diameter than that, but I don't really have anything. About there. And then the final part is much easier to recreate because it just closes the gap. Excellent. And if I bring you the right way around, I think that's actually a pretty good looking curve. There we go. And now the unenviable task of cutting out the windows in this nasty material. First I have to rearrange my splice screws. I'm sure my epoxy hasn't set yet, but these certainly aren't in the right place anymore. And there we have it, folks. 1 bulkhead. What do you think, Lady Zephyrs?
Pretty swanky.
All right. Alrighty. So, hey, well, welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week, Alfie.
Thank
so
you.
cool to have you here, and well, so cool to be here, because technically I'm on your boat. Here we
Yes.
are in Genoa Bay. You just dropped by.
Just passing through.
Cruising
I'd
along.
See if you're in.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. I've been looking to meet Alfie for quite a while. I mean, a long time. Those of you who don't know, Alfie has his own YouTube channel, which is basically a legendary from the beginning of sailing channels. And you've been at it. I mean, you were telling me a little earlier when you got started.
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
Life is like sailing.
Yeah.
And it's a super channel. You've been in the north lately. You've been cruising around the Gulf Islands lately. And what are we sitting on?
This is our 1979 Hans Christian 43.
It's so gorgeous.
So, it's been a boat I've wanted for a long time.
Right.
And but most of our content was filmed on our CNC 34.
Right.
1982.
Right. Yeah.
And that's sort of when the channel was born, and
It started to get going. Is
yeah,
that
we cruised around. Well, I lived aboard it for 5 years.
Right. Yep.
Cruised around southern BC, then moved up to Prince Rupert, cruised around northern BC.
Yep.
Then we moved to Yellowknife, brought the boat back down to Vancouver. That was in 2019, and that's when we found Northern Dancer 5, the boat we're on now. and we ended up purchasing it just before the pandemic.
Right.
So
kind of a complicated purchase, right?
complicated, yeah.
Yeah.
But it happened. It
worked out.
and, and we've owned the boat for going on almost 3 years now.
Wow,
So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's really great to get to see it and to get to see you. I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, I'm kind of starstruck because you're like one of the first shows I ever watched.
oh, thanks.
So that's really good.
But it's awesome to meet other people too, like yourself.
Well,
And,
thank you very
although
much. Yeah.
I was going to be telling my viewers,
All right.
you're not a sailing channel, but
No.
I've always loved watching your channel because I told you earlier, if you don't like boat maintenance, don't buy a boat.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
you do a lot of boat maintenance. And
I tend to. Eh?
yeah, so
it worked out pretty well.
slightly different shape, but it's
Yeah,
still
exactly.
enjoyable to watch. And I've watched your journey for a long time as well.
Well, that's really great. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. Lots of fun.
And super fun to meet you.
You too.
Yeah.
Let's get some beer.
Yeah.
Or in your case, you're drinking
I've got a rum and coke.
rum and coke on the go. But this
Yeah.
beer, I'm going to tell you, although it'll be Alfie that has to tell you the actual details, came how many kilometers from the Northwest Territories?
So in Yellowknife they have
Yeah.
a brew pub
Yeah.
called the NWT Brewing.
NWT Brewing.
And since I've been watching your show for some time, and I know you do the beer of the week, I
Right.
said to Devlin, my spouse, we need to bring some beer down for Peter because he does these beers of the week.
Right.
And the brew pub's very popular and actually internationally known. So I said, well, I'm not a beer drinker,
Right.
which is why I have the rum and coke. But so I went into the brewer house and I said, I need, what's your most popular drinks?
Right.
And so we threw them in the car.
And a couple came down.
Yeah, and we brought them down 2,400 kilometers.
Wow,
So that's
crazy.
traveled.
That's a long delivery. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. So this is Kick Sled, which of course is a reference to the sleds that
The kick sleds that
the
they
kick
use.
sleds that
Yeah.
they use up there. And it's a cream ale. And as I think I mentioned, Alfie gave me 2 beers. So the next week will be the other of the very interesting beers from Northwest Territories. I can't wait to try it.
I hope it's good.
Okay, well, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Well, cheers, Alfie.
Cheers.
Very good to meet you.
You as well.
Northern Cream Ale.
How is it?
It's awesome.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. It has those. It almost has that nitrogen carbonated. It may not be, but very creamy, like very small bubble. Like in other words, not harsh, which is what makes it creamy. It's light. It's very drinkable. Absolutely fabulous.
This is one of their best sellers, they told me.
Well,
so.
it's an excellent beer. Thanks so much.
Oh, good.
Yeah, actually, that's growing on me in a big way. Okay, I have to do just a little bit of paperwork just before we chat
Yeah.
some more.
I know.
I have to give
I've
away a
seen it
t-shirt.
before.
We've seen it before. Okay. All right. Last week's winner of a Travels With Geordie t-shirt is Bob Adam. Bob, get a hold of me. I'm sure you can figure that out, and we'll make sure you get your Travels With Geordie t-shirt. Cheers and congratulations. Cheers, Bob. Holy moly. Fantastic. So you're out cruising. You've been out cruising how long?
I left about a week ago.
Right.
So when I've moved back to the BC coast.
Yeah.
And we keep the boat up in Ladysmith,
Yeah.
which isn't too far from here.
No, it's a great little town too.
Yeah, we really like it there.
Yeah.
But when I arrived in May, because we put off maintenance for so long, my summer has been filled with maintenance. I
Right.
took the boat out twice,
Right.
and one of those times was to go to Maple Bay to haul out for 3 weeks.
Right.
So I
Where we just were and just had a beer in the pub.
yeah, and a great restaurant there, the Shipyard.
Yeah.
And my viewers don't know it yet, but
Right.
Devlin is flying in 2 days.
Wow.
To Maple Bay,
Yeah.
so I'm meeting her with the boat. We're gonna have a little rendezvous there, and
Lovely.
then she's back off to Yellowknife.
Wow.
So she's currently in Iceland.
You kidding me?
No, she's just,
Yeah.
that's what she
Wow.
flies around for work, gets to go to all these fun places.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And in her off time, she gets to be aboard Northern Dancer 5. I haven't been calling it 5. I apologize.
Oh.
'Cause that's the proper name.
No problem.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
been the name since the start,
That's crazy.
and we're the 4th owners. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned to you
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's about 43 years old.
And you started to share with me this afternoon maybe some big plans. I'm not saying you have to talk about all of them, but you know.
Well,
But-
for now,
Yeah.
we're gonna continue to cruise the south coast
Yeah.
because Devlin, her only sailing experience has been on BC's north coast.
Yeah. Sure.
Outside of a couple short
It's
trips
nice
here.
down here.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's crowded.
Mm-hmm.
In the north coast,
Yeah.
we were used to having anchorages to ourselves.
Right.
And we were anchored one time in a place called Home Bay off Whale Channel.
Yeah.
and we dropped the hook. We had about 8 humpbacks bubble net feeding beside us. We had a wolf howling on the beach.
Yeah.
And then there's this beautiful sunset, and we saw the sailboat going by on the sunset, and we thought, oh, it's the perfect ending.
Right.
And then we saw him turn.
Oh no.
We're like, oh, what's he doing? And then he's like, he's not coming in here. We got really ticked off. And then we realized, wait, this bay is big enough for the two of us.
Big enough for the two of you. So that's
So that's the difference between North.
So
Coast.
crowded is 2 boats.
That's pretty crowded.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
when you get to Preto Haven, crowded is 65 boats.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. No, true.
Yeah. But we're going to spend some time cruising down here and for the next few years.
Yep.
And then we would like to go back up to northern BC and cruise there, and then maybe further north.
Further north.
At,
Well, there's
the
less and less
appropriately
ice
named
up
boat.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, you know what we do next? I'm putting this on you.
Yeah.
This is all on you now.
Yeah.
We need a word of the week.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I found that out just a moment ago. But
I didn't give you much time.
No. Well, we're sitting on Northern Dancer 5.
Right.
How about the word northern?
Northern. Perfect. Absolutely.
Does that work for you?
All right, let them all know.
So put northern in a comment or a message.
Yeah,
Comment.
something like comment. Yeah.
And then you will win a T-shirt. of
Might
the
win a
week.
shirt.
Well, if you're picked. But you have to use that
random.
word.
At random.
At random.
Exactly. All right then. Well, cheers. It's
Everyone gets a
fantastic.
shirt.
Everyone gets a shirt. Just give them all away.
Hey Peter, how's it going? Alfie. From Life is Like Sailing.
You're kidding me.
No?
I'm looking out and I'm going, hey, how are you, mate? Let me put down a brush.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt.
Well,
I just anchored out in the...
Are you up to bait for a bit?
Yeah, for the night.
The night?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just finish this up and